Can you hear me? Yeah. Good afternoon. Welcome to One Big Story. Thank you for coming out today. We have a packed house, which is awesome. We're going to talk about stories and publishing. And to kick things off, I will introduce myself. My name is Michael Siglain. I am the creative director for Lucasfilm Publishing. We have a great set of panelists up here. I'm going to have them introduce themselves and tell you briefly who they are and where they belong.
Where do I belong? It's such an existential question. Hi, my name is Jennifer Peddle. I am a senior editor at Lucasfilm, and a lot of what I do is liaise between these publishers and the story group, so that's why I'm here.
I'm Shelley Shapiro, editor-at-large at Del Rey. I edit the Del Rey Star Wars novels, and I work with all these guys to make them all work together.
Hi, I'm Sadie Smith. I'm a managing editor at Dawn and Weasley, and where I should be is here, I think. And we've been working with Lucasfilm a long time and produced many, many great books.
My name is Leland Chi. You might know me better as the keeper of the holocron.
What happened to it?
So I am part of the newly created story group under Kiri Hart that tries to ensure that everything that we create fits under a single canon.
Sounds easier than done. I'm Pablo Hidalgo. I am not listed in the program for this panel, but they're letting me sit down here.
Extra special guest star.
I'm also part of the story group, and I work closely with the rest of our partners in the story group to work with filmmakers, video game makers, storytellers of all kinds, answering their questions and informing them how best to move forward and keeping this universe as cohesive as we can.
I am Jordan D. White. I am the editor of all the Star Wars comics at Marvel Comics.
I'm C.B. Cebulski, lifelong Star Wars fan, much like all you all. And now I'm living my childhood dream working as the executive editor on Marvel Star Wars Comics with Jordan.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about first is really what is canon right now. And there's been almost 40 years of storytelling revolving around Star Wars, and we're at a really unique spot right now, because right now what the canon is, it's the movies, it's the TV shows, it's the video games, and it's right now our publishing program. And so what we're trying to do is really tell, like the name of the panel says, one big story. This is a marathon. It's not a short little sprint. It's not a little race. And what we're looking to do is map out the grander galaxy and say, all right, well, if there's a story that's going to be told in a kid's book, how does that relate to what Jordan's doing in a Marvel comic? And how does that relate to what's going on with Del Rey and what's going on with the books that DK are doing, the books that Disney Publishing is doing? And like Pablo said, it's not as easy as it sounds to keep track of everything, and that's really where the mysterious story group comes into play. Because I'm sure you've heard, story group. They walk around, they wear clothes. It's impressive. No, but if Pablo and Leland, if you guys could just expand a little bit upon what your role is within Lucasfilm and how you guys interact with us on the panel, that would be awesome.
As background, and we kind of all know this, but it always helps to restate it for people because it's so easy to get confused about certain things. But the fundamental shift in the way we did things and the way we're doing things going forward came from Kathleen Kennedy, our president. And we had an incredible opportunity that no one could have predicted a few years ago, that Star Wars would return to the big screen in a way that we could only have dreamed about. The huge shift in operations for us, or rather, for lack of a better term, is in the past, there were two camps kind of developing story. And And the intent was to have them interact as much as possible. But the reality is that the cinematic entertainment coming from George and the published entertainment coming from our licensees and our editorials, they weren't as in sync as could be. Now, Kathy, in her wisdom, said she wants everything that comes out to have that kind of authenticity, to avoid any major disconnects that may have happened in the past. So she quite wisely created a story group that, among other things, this is not all we do, but among other things, is we track what's in development. We have much more of a long-term game plan than we've ever had visibility into before. We understand what's happening far into the future, and as a result, we're able to inform all our partners that are involved in storytelling in a way that we could really capitalize on.
And we're also producing much more content than we were in the past. I mean, we would make a movie every 3 years, and now a movie every year, that's a lot of content. And that's a lot of space that we need to give ourselves for future storytelling. Which is why we had to make that hard decision about making the Expanded Universe Legends. Because it's one thing if everything after episode 6 might interfere with episode 7, but we're also doing standalones, and the standalones can take place at any point in timeline.
And Rebels itself doesn't take place after 7, it exists in the existing film, so we have to accommodate that and the kind of storytelling requirements that that entails.
Which is why we had to make the decision that all the Expanded Universe at that point in time would be considered Legends. And in doing so, we also did the thing of calling it Legends and keeping the reprints so that people can still enjoy that material, even though it's not canon.
And the thing that, in that regard, it's like, one of the realities is there's going to be so many new Star Wars fans. It's unthinkable how big this movie's going to be around the world. I mean, we are incredibly dominating the internet right now. Bad news for anyone thought to announce their presidential candidacy this week, this was a bad. Well, that actually would have worked. But because there are so many new people that are going to be brought into this, the concern was when they pick up a book, what will be the expectations of reading that book and then understanding what's going to be on the screen in December and the years following that. And how do you understand that distinction between a story that, that is now considered in the Legends category versus something that coming forward that is going to be cohesive with what the cinematic entertainment is going to be?
And
that was the answer to one question.
No, but to that end, I just wanted the panelists to quickly speak to how they interact with you guys and how they work with Story Group, because it is a very, very close relationship, because you guys really do see everything. So Jennifer, if you want to touch on some of the books, be it from the Marvel side or the Disney side.
Sure. So, a lot of what I do is, obviously I work directly with the publishers themselves, like people like Shelley and Jordan on the stories. And, usually what happens is we'll kind of work out among ourselves, what kind of story we want to tell and kind of, get the idea to the place that we want it to be, where we're happy with it. And then I'll share it with the story group to get their feedback. And story group is pretty much involved at every stage of that, so they'll be involved at, the proposal stage, the outline stage, the script or manuscript stage. They're following it all the way through. So they're, making sure that every single detail is in step. And, I work with them on kind of both the macro and micro level because, some of it will be, we'll have a discussion about, a certain storyline and how it's going to affect, different books from different publishers, or sometimes I'm just emailing Leland asking him, what kind of ship can we use in this particular scene, So it's like, they're kind of my go-to people for just about every little detail. My brain trust, if you will.
And Shelley, on your side? Because you look at it from a different perspective than Jen does.
Not that different, actually, except I have to kind of liaise, if that's a verb, between the authors and the story group, Lucasfilm in general. I work with the authors we worked very closely with them to figure out the story we were all comfortable with, and they're constantly have to come back to me. We have some authors we've actually brought out to Lucasfilm and had meetings with the story group and Jen and everybody there to discuss things right in person, but more often we don't have the leisure to do that or the pleasure of doing that. So I have authors who are constantly in touch with me with questions like, what ship should I use here? What location should I use here? Is it okay to do this? Is it okay to do that? And a lot of that I know by now. And a lot of it I don't. And then I go to Jen and I ask her, and what she doesn't know she gets from the story group. And it all is constantly kind of working around in a cycle to make sure everything falls into place in the right places.
And then Sadie, a lot of what you do is considered non-fiction for Star Wars. So how does what you do and what your team does differ from what Jen and Shelley are doing?
Well, we do work with expert authors, and we put a lot of trust and faith in them, but we select them very carefully. And being referenced, there's a lot of detail in our books and facts and figures and things, so it's a bit of a minefield. But Lucasfilm with us every step of the way, and story group is so important to us, especially when we've got so many facts and figures going on in our books.
You've got a book there, do you want
Yeah, absolutely. This is the first title that DK has produced that is actually part of the new canon. So
yeah, we worked really closely with DK in putting this, because at the time, the origins of this book sort of came out when we were still figuring it out. But we knew that this book had to be strictly canon. This is the ultimate Star Wars.
It's essentially the first and the most comprehensive encyclopedic look at the Star Wars universe that DK has done.
And again, this will really serve a purpose for with a whole new audience coming aboard, them understanding what is it to really pay attention to and understand what's in the film canon and what's in the television canon and other places that we can fill in on.
Exactly.
So it's an illustrated guide to all the characters, all the planets. I mean, this is almost like a version of the holocron at that point in time.
It is actually, yeah, it really is. So it's kind of like the book that we go to now in the office when we're doing another title and we want to get it right and we want to get the facts right. But again, everything we do work very closely with Story Group.
And really, it sets up a great foundation for moving forward.
Yeah.
And that book in particular is a tremendous tool for a lot of our authors and illustrators.
Absolutely.
It's, that's one-stop shopping right there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
I was
book
just
we
thinking
think.
we need to get a copy of that.
Wonderful if everyone on the panel gets it.
It really is hot. We are actually selling it at the moment at Celebration, but it's not out in stores until May. But we are selling it today Sorry?
It only contains canon, so everything that was considered expanded universe is legends, and so
They're asking specifically
Force Awakens.
No. If there was Force Awakens content,
sorry, I thought you said Force Awakens. I'm sorry. No. I'm going to say no.
The Sanskrit encyclopedias are legends now?
That's all legends.
That's all legends, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of expanded universe content in those. Yeah, and every book we did before the announcement of the canon is legends.
Yeah, I would say that was the hardest part to wrap our heads around. Was it's easy to say the stories are legends, but it's harder to say also some of the facts are legends, and it's like, oh wait, what?
But it's like more are like when it comes down to a question needing to fill in a background detail. Generally, what was established in the Legends universe is completely viable because there's nothing that was said or established about certain things that ended up being violated by anything that happened on the screen later on. There were a few things and some pretty heated discussions and some decisions that had to be made because we had this opportunity to revisit things. And we were able to look at some early facts that were established, and we've always had to work with that and fudge it and move it back and forth. Things like, Death Star sizes is such a tangled web to unravel, and so we don't necessarily have to accommodate a lot of the conjecture that was done before by having a clean start. I'll give you an example of one, and I don't know, it's tough because we understand that people will be attached to everything when it comes to Star Wars. You'll find someone who is a passionate defender of every fact somewhere in the world. And so it's not done arbitrarily, it's done with an analysis of what was done in the past and where are we going forward. So, that's a long way of saying that huts are no longer hermaphrodites. Because we couldn't back that up in order to make that work, every hut that appeared on screen had to have an asterisk around their name saying, well, huts are hermaphroditic, except for this one, except for this one. Like, we look at the Clone Wars, and Zero the Hutt has a mother and a father, and we look at the character of Jabba as envisioned, and there was no way to deny the fact that that character was male with some very bad male tendencies. And so it seemed cleaner in that case. So that's an example of a fact that was up for debate.
And that's a small one. We've done big ones too, and one of them is addressed in the comics, the Leia comic in particular. This is one of the things that we, Pop and I thought about, like, why would the Empire let the rebels stay on Yavin for so long?
And that required so much dancing around in order to justify a 6-month departure window to preserve certain stories that, had those authors known that The Empire Strikes Back was going to start on Hoth, they would not put up a fight to keep the rebels on Yavin. And it made absolute sense. The rebel base was discovered. It was essentially indefensible, both as a base and a fact in storytelling. Why would they be on Yavin? So we made sure that they skedaddled as soon as possible.
And that leads into Jordan and CB, if you guys want